Yep. Start streaming. We're gonna start going live. We're about to be live. It's Sunday. It's Hawaii sports fans. It's crazy out there. It's still crazy out there. It's been crazy out there, but let's try and make this a little bit easier for you. Dealing with all the rumors swirling. I'm going to talk about those, of course. But just going to wait for some of you to come in. About 5:06 p.m. Hawaiian timing in a little bit today. A little bit tired. This is recovery. I'm good. But I need to talk about this because, it's our greatest fears. Something I've been talking about since April. Could be coming true. College football season. Well, it looks like the big power brokers that we've been talking about since April, since I started this show. The Big Five, the Power Five, their commissioners, really, the ones who are trying to balance a lot. And it's not easy for the commissioners as well. There's a tremendous amount of pressure. There's a tremendous amount of money. And I'm going to talk about that later as well, because that's going to be a segue into a lot of good that's coming out of this. So this is not just negative. I think what's happening in the world, especially how the athletes themselves are responding, whether they want to play, whether they want to play under certain conditions, whether they opt out, it's requiring everybody to be so much more just cognizant of daily life and how they're affected and how this could affect others. And yes, there is so much uncertainty in the world. So this is not easy at all. It's not easy for me, of course. For somebody who really likes football, I mean, it's really difficult for me to see it happening, even though I saw it coming from a mile away. But it is what it is. You know, we are at a place now that the MAC has, which is an FBS conference, so getting closer to the Mountain West. That's basically, I don't know. They're below us. They're below us, but not to us. I don't want to start conference stuff because that's so weird. I don't want to be like those people who like chant SEC at games and stuff. That's just so weird. Not that anybody would chant Mountain West, but in terms of conferences, the Mountain West and MAC are pretty close. So the MAC has already gone ahead and canceled it. And in good news, and something we've also been talking about since April, is that they are looking towards the spring, possibly, of playing. So that's positive for the MAC. The Big Ten commissioner also, so if you look to the side of me, the Big Ten Conference Commissioner Kevin Warren prefers going college football season in the spring. The weird thing is, one of the loudest advocates against spring, I don't know how you can advocate against something, so I should rephrase that, but somebody who really doesn't want spring football, and that is the Penn State athletic director. She's in that conference, in the Big Ten Conference. So clearly there is a little bit of discord there. I don't want to say, not that it's... look, everybody's going to have different opinions, and that's the thing. That's where it starts. Let's be honest. It's human beings. Who are these people as human beings? What do they believe in? What do they believe in by, I mean, like, do they believe in the virus even? I mean, let's get to that level, because that could also affect how people react to the pandemic that is surrounding us. And I think that is a sad point, but that's where we have to start. I don't think every commissioner, I don't think every region, I don't think every human is reacting the same way, and it's fine. Everybody is going to react their own way. That's a thing about being a United States citizen as well, right? You can do what you want, and you can act however you want. So, of course, there's going to be disarray and there's going to be discord, but when it affects us in college football, we start to react a little bit more, because football is America. That's what football is. And because football is such an important source of revenue, is the first thing that came to my mind, because it is money. We're going to talk about that more, but it is a part of the culture. It is a part of the fall season. It is a part of autumn. It is a part of our time clocks. It's a part of how we approach this time of year, right? The end of summer, the best season. I love summer. It's my favorite season. It's always been my favorite season because it's so fun, especially when you're in Hawaii, right? But the fall is football. It's like summer dovetails into, fall, and hot dogs, and wherever else Paul Honda is eating at some high school field, while Felipe Ohacio is doing the play-by-play, and the Trojans are playing the Mules. That is a part of our culture in Hawaii, but football is a part of the general American culture, and so now we have people who are starting to finally make decisions. Wow. Only took them to August. Today's August 9th. In a perfect world, in a parallel universe, we're playing in 20 days at Tucson, and everything is normal in the world. Let's reflect on that for just a brief second. Oh gosh, how did we get to this place, man? How did we get here? I shouldn't have reflected. Ugh. I mean, we should be going to places. We should be doing what we normally do, but we're not. And I think why, for me personally, I of course want to see football season happen, but I of course also, not just because for me, because wow. For a lot of people, this is how our lives are in the fall. We go to football games, sometimes all of them in a row, sometimes 60 of them in a row. So it is what it is. I'm of course I'm sad about football itself, but I think that the writing's on the wall. This is not official, but for college football, I think a lot of the writing is on the wall there, and I think people are, going to have to come to some serious decisions. But at the same time, I hope that they really keep in mind that you can salvage a lot, and that's the scariest thing. This is why I'm kind of emotional. There's a lot that goes into football season. Everybody's right. There are people that are saying, particularly for those that want to play college football, or want to see the season happen, there are people saying that you should, the players should just play. They should go out there and play, and it is what it is. They get scholarship money, which is crazy. That's crazy. Particularly because, yes, not that many people die, or 99.7% recover. Like, that's awesome. But like, to be that 1 or 3 out of 1,000, that's not even great odds at all. So for anybody to feel completely safe about, and also just getting it could do a lot of things to you. So we know that we're still learning about it, having the virus, but I think that talks a lot about that. That goes to, and the guy next to me, you see Trevor Lawrence, the quarterback at Clemson. He tweeted, his tweet was getting a lot of traction today because he talked about they want to play, and then I saw a bunch of people jumping on about SEC because Clemson's not an SEC. I just can't already. And then somebody put in that article, I think the Power 5. So you read that SI article. These are a couple articles that are going around today. That SI article, I forget who it was. It was a higher level, because nobody's name can be attached to anything. That's another thing. Nobody's name can be on anything. It's just like we're waiting for a few people, and the handwriting's on the wall, but nobody can make a decision, and it affects everybody. It affects how we do things. It affects how, our a lot of people, their work, my company, everything is affected. But sorry, this is crazy. I think what people don't necessarily realize, though, in the grand scheme of things, is that trending the virus and what historically has happened would have or should have at the time, and there were, let's acknowledge the Cal State schools who already canceled their fall season, right? They knew that it wasn't going to work out. So they already made room for spring and have been planning. So they stand alone now as the ones who got it right. So we need to stop acting like people, this should be forgotten. This is never going to be forgotten. First of all, this pandemic is never going to be forgotten. So neither will the fact that people will not have college football in 2020. And hopefully the spring we can still do it. Who knows? That's the thing. But let's plan for that at least. At the very least. It's just, you made us wait this long. And, they have to. I don't know. They have to at this point. They have to plan for the spring. We have to at least get one season. Yes, the NFL draft. Yes, 2 seasons butting into each other. Yes, of course. But skipping a whole year, that's going to be worse. I'll be freaking in a ball of tears if that happens. I was close to that already, but it's going to be difficult to digest all of this. But we need to be rational about how kids, literally students, and there are children who are going to go to school in buildings next to each other, are affected by this. So there's a tweet that I really found to be hi Russ. I saw that. This is a tweet that I found to be pretty illuminating and just for the way that it was stated, and Jay Billis retweeted it. And I guess I still follow Jay Billis, even though I'm not like a huge Jay Billis fan. I don't even agree with him on everything, but I think he is a guy that if I see exactly where he's coming from this. And Russ says, Mac just canceled season, more will follow. Yes, definitely. Absolutely. And that's what we were talking about. This is the end. College athletics, what this Sam Vicini says, 2 major issues that we don't talk about ever. Number 1, collective bargaining. I talk about collective bargaining I use that phrase probably on every single show that I talk about, because when it comes to the pro game, and I'm pro player, I'm an aspiring owner, pro player, aspiring owner. And I'll still always be pro player, because sports is a cultural asset for us. The money is an asset for some people, yes. The people making money, yes. But for the rest of us, this is just a part of us. This is the emotional part that we get every year. It's not about money. It's never been about money. Nothing's ever about money. If you really love something, period. But especially football, that's what has changed. And no collective bargaining between players and NCAA. Of course, there's no union of players in collegiate athletics. Even as, the Power 5 starts to rake in some serious money from football, television contracts. And 2, no strong leadership and desire to take accountability or look in the mirror by the governing body itself. That's, I worked in that building, not as a full-time employee, obviously at the NCAA, but I served on NCAA committee for 4 years. As a member of the Minority Opportunities and Interest Committee for 4 years, and while I was in as a member of the Pacific West Conference, Division 2, Pac West, who also won't be having fall sports, which is another hard part. But the NCAA preaches so much about health and safety, like so much. Like it's definitely one of the lines that's talked over and over and over again, health and safety of student athletes, because it is important. There's even an NCAA chief medical doctor. I've asked him questions, Brian Hairline. I sat in meetings with him. It's shocking that they let it get this far. It's still going. Like, it's shocking to me. So that's exposing the NCAA for what it is. So nothing will ever nothing can ever be the same because now everything's being exposed. All the skeletons are being out of the closet. And this is one of them. This is one that's major. Is that amateurism is that phrase as well is kind of a fallacy when in terms of how it's used against kids who basically have another job, which is going to practice, which is doing everything that going to lift weights. It's another major. It is. Like, people might be like, oh, athletes, oh, they gotta, and I'm not even saying that every athlete loves school or even pays attention to school or doesn't have someone really help them with their work all the time. But that's their job is job, like literally, and people say job, and people drop that word all the time. You're not supposed to. Of course, it's not a job, but it is a job. And I think it's something that thank you, Jenny. I think it's something that is important, especially at the Power 5. Look, at Hawaii, we're a mid-major, we're a group of 5 school. So at the same time, our boys are making money for the school. This is another reason why it's such a big loss, is because the financial part of it, because of the money. And a lot of sports, now I see why Stanford did it so early, got it out of the way, because ultimately Stanford, for one thing, didn't have to cut all the sports. They still don't. They have a humongous, they're sitting on a treasure trove, a humongous endowment. They are Stanford University. So they didn't need to cut all the sports. But at UH, we're lucky so far. I haven't heard any, anybody really talk about any cuts being done. And that's something that's going to be, talked about this week. That's for sure. Because everything, like I said, everything's coming out of the closet. Because you don't have football, you don't have the money, the revenue that's coming from those games. I mean, if you're paying month to month, if you're paying month to month for your season tickets, you're still gonna get the money come out. Even though the season, because they need to use the money. They need the money now. They need our money right now to pay bills right now. Because everybody is, it is how it is. I mean. I'm sure the school, I'm not saying the school won't refund your money if there's no season. I'm not saying that at all, but they certainly haven't stopped drafting the money, even though the season's been uncertain for a long time. And that's just the facts. They took my money. I don't care. You take my money. How much I give to this school? I mean, everything I wear coming from there. So, I do this because this is a cultural value to us, to people from Hawaii. The cultural value of it. Financial value is unfathomable to most of us because those kind of figures, we don't know what it's like to be in charge of it. And at UH, they have a sizable budget, but a sizable deficit that they have to work with, a sizable debt that they are carrying. So it's a difficult job when you're playing with the margins. I know that myself. Starting a company, starting a small business, still playing with the margins. It's still sometime. Come on, so when we do travel again, who knows? You guys better be coming with me, because we have the best trips. I don't regret anything that comes with the troubles or the difficulties of starting a small business. I don't, but I understand what it's like when you anticipate. For me, I anticipated, having some tours and being able to take people to Portland and to Eugene, Oregon, and to spend time there. And we had a great, in some parallel universe, we'll be there in downtown Portland celebrating. But that's not happening anymore. So I would love that they would just have shifted the calendar, just push the fall to spring. I see I see Jim Hamlin, my Utah boy. I see that Utah High School is going forward with football in the fall so far. So that's interesting. And we even had a kid from Kamehameha, the quarterback, just went up. I saw Paul Honda's article. So that's what the pandemic is doing. It's forcing situations. So that's another story. If you're going to check out Paul Honda wrote about the Kamehameha quarterback transferring just moving to Utah and joining the football team there. So this will be interesting to see how people start reacting as the dominoes start falling, because I think it's in the best interest of the student athletes to have football in the spring and to push the you know the calendar that way, so they feel like they'll have the year, because there are a lot of students that could be traveling or potentially want to be home with their families, especially if they can't go to class. I mean, there's no point really in being on campus. To me, I mean, I guess, but if you're just isolating in your own dorm on campus, like, you should just do that at home, and you can't go to class. I mean, unless you have like labs or something, and that's going to be difficult to do. But I mean, of course, life still has to go on, and things at the university campus will still be able to do, and learning will still go on, academia will go on. But a lot of people might not come back to campus. So a lot of football players are here already, but it'll be hard for them, thinking like, are we going to play? Like, some, they don't even know the situation. And we have a new coach. It's a tough situation right now for us. It's really just difficult. And, oh, hi, Michelle. I see Michelle is watching from Australia, a country who's successfully doing things like making people quarantine, which is helping their numbers. But here, football is on the brink. So the rumors are out there. That's what we're talking about right now. And we'll see. So today is Sunday, so tomorrow is Monday. Another reason why I wanted to do shows on Sunday is because I was hoping, we could have talk stories like this after games. So hopefully that happens soon. But yeah, who knows when that's going to happen now. I would love it to be spring. I think that they have a little bit of they're backing up now, because say, for safety, because they're talking about player safety. So let's talk about player safety. That's the biggest issue with the spring. Player safety, because if the season ends in April and they have to start playing in July, late July or whatever, that's not very much time, which is true. Or May. But what's probably worse is getting coronavirus, I would just imagine. Especially because athletes, we've already had a case of a Division I athlete in the emergency room in a coma from training camp. So I think it was in the Midwest. It's a dangerous thing, and the mom had a Facebook post that went viral. That's why. It's scary. It'd be scary to be a student athlete. I mean, I would be scared if somebody was like, "Hey, just go play," And a lot of the students have been very vocal in something called MW United, which we'll talk about right now as well. So the Pac-12, as you all have heard about Coach Rolovich in that situation at Washington State, and his comment toward his receiver about whether he was joining the Pac-12 United. I guess it's Pac-12 United, and they just took the name. Sorry. Okay. So the Pac-12 athletes had a very long list of demands. Some of them were very ambitious, and I love very ambitious, so I'm there for it. And some of them, they all had merit to them. They all had logic behind them. The 50% revenue sharing, which people can't get over with, that's what a lot of pro teams are pro sports are battling with it as well. It's like one side is getting a lot of money, and in this case, one side is getting a lot of money while the other side is not getting a lot of money. And that's not saying that some of that money is not going to stuff that's helping all the students, because it definitely is, and I hope so. I don't know where, I can't account for every dollar that's going, but those Power 5 schools are bringing in millions and millions upon millions, handfuls upon millions of millions. We aren't at UH, but those Power 5 are, and that has gone to coaches' salaries. I mean, coaches getting paid $8 million a year. That's insane. That is insane. And that means you have the money to do stuff help players more often, because you have players that are starving, or players that can't afford the table, or players that are preferred walk-ons. So that's why the Power 5 had already in discussion been talking about some form of autonomy, from the rest of the FBS schools, like our schools, so they could pay and or add stipends. So now full cost of tuition is being met, but stipends aren't even enough still. It's a job still. So this MW United, you started seeing some of our team, Hawaii team players, Corey Bethley, Kai Kaneshiro, a bunch of players. I don't know, guys who don't even have their names on there, and I'm just like, I don't know. But I am pretty impressed with the solidarity, and I think that it's impressive to me to see like our players speak out, and I'm proud of them, and I hope that they continue to use their voices, and I think MW United is one of those ways that they are. But MW United starts here. To the Mountain West Conference as the foundation of entertainment and competition provided by the sport of gridiron football. It's so like flowery. I love it. Somebody who was like an English major definitely wrote that. We the athletes, ooh, they didn't even put student athletes. I like that too. Do not feel safe enough participating this upcoming season without reform. So without reform, so that says something right there. There's too much ambiguity surrounding the state of affairs in this country, definitely, to demand competition as we know it, definitely. These last 4 months have altered the lives of not just Americans, but the human race. Absolutely. We have families and children just like any fan, coach, citizen, or worker. The virus is real and rampant in this country. So obviously right there, being very vocal about what they believe, the virus is real, that people need to take it for real, that there is risk involved, and people are putting their lives at risk. This is not to minimize people right now, so thank you so much, all those people who are doing deliveries, who are working in grocery stores, who are everyone, all the workers too that we rely on and we depend on to be there. You know, it's very fortunate. I'm fortunate to be able to have so much at my disposal, even during the pandemic, to be able to go to so many places and shop, and if I wanted to, I'm not walking around too much. But there are workers that have to be out there and doing things and interacting with people, postal workers. That's, and we're trying to save the post office, so definitely save the post office. But that's important because we have to empower ourselves and take back your own rights. Don't question anything. As an actor, especially being a part of a union, which I'm lucky, I'm a part of the SAG Screen Actors Guild, which I've been a part of for 8-9 years now. There are rules that protect me from, and places where, especially if you're less empowered, especially if you're an actor, especially if you're a background actor, if you're somebody that, honestly, like on the totem pole, you're like way down there, like right below around the PAs, kind of. Like they will put you in harm's way if, they can get around it. And by harm's way, of course, they're not going to try and kill you, but there's like, oh, there's a stunt you should do. Yeah, totally safe. We'll try it. And then they'll, make you go in the back. But being a part of a union, that's why it's good to be in a union. They will protect you and have protections in place, and somebody even on set to be able to talk to the director. So that's, in all of our industries, that's a way that unions are effective, in that they help people to be safe and have safe conditions. So this is MW United is kind of a blueprint for a union, and the Pac-12 those players have expressly stated that they do want a union. So, and that shouldn't be minimized, shouldn't be judged by anyone. These players' requests, they're real, and I stand by them as well. Especially the Mountain West ones, and we'll go back to it as well. As you see, all the schools are represented. I don't know all the athletes. I'm sure not every single Mountain West student athlete signed their name to this. Of course not, but enough to have a movement, because the movement is pretty loud on Twitter. It's pretty fire. So, although the coaching staffs of the Mountain West have taken commendable steps to revolutionize the way we train and grow, yes, this is not an attack on coaches at all. We do not feel comfortable playing teams from other states. It is difficult to believe that hundreds of 17 to 22-year-old college students are capable of social distancing effectively enough to travel state to state for 10 weeks. No. This is evident in the reports released by several schools that have had increases in cases of COVID-19 following return to OTA-style workouts. For these reasons, we have established, and that's true as well, there have already been cases at most of the schools. Our school is one of them, UH. For these reasons, and we have the lowest, spread in the country. But we are a hotspot right now. For these reasons, we have established conditions to be agreed upon amongst the conference. So here are some established conditions that they would like to see established. Oh, sorry. Okay. Testing, prevention, and safety. Athletes will receive COVID-19 tests every week and at least 72 hours before each match, as instructed by the NCAA. Okay. Staff members, including coaches, trainers, and everyone in contact with athletes, will receive COVID-19 tests. Okay. Facilities will have strict protocols. So yeah, some of the things that we see, proper accommodations. All right. Okay, so here's where some people are starting to maybe diverge. Athletes who choose to opt out of the season due to COVID-19 concerns will receive a hardship waiver to grant them additional year of eligibility, regardless of athletes' timeline of 5-year clock. And some people will say, "Oh, that's the NCAA's thing," but the conference can drive that conversation. Absolutely, the conference is definitely a part of it. The conference needs to be. That's what I'm saying. Who is advocating for our student athletes? Let's be honest. If you are work for a school, are you advocating for the student athlete? Who are you? Which side are you on? Like, this is a tussle. The students have already, the athletes, they expressly call themselves athletes, have already established that this is their side. So, yes, this is a negotiable thing, probably for them even. But this is also something that's saying like, okay, wait, it's crazy that we're even playing, but let's go forward and say, because it is. At the end of the day, we have to stop back and be like, this is crazy, we're trying to make this work, but so many of these people rely on the game. Yes, and it always goes back to the money, but that cannot be a burden placed on children, kids. Okay, athletes who choose to opt out of the season due to COVID-19 concerns. Okay, I did that one right. Athletes who contract COVID-19 during the season and miss more than 30% of competition will receive a hardship waiver to give them additional eligibility. And in an event of cancellation over 50% of scheduled season, all athletes will receive a hardship waiver to grant them an additional year of eligibility. And that's something that I talked about last week as well, right? Was like, if we don't have a clean season, if we have a season that stops somewhere in between, or even worse, like it just starts and there's no plan. Can you imagine we start the season, there's outbreaks, cannot play, other team has an outbreak, other places have outbreaks. Would you rather like keep stopping the season? Eventually that would get old. Eventually it wouldn't work, and it would just be ugly and messy. So this is why they need to come to this decision right now, is because of that reason. Cannot get to that point. So the athletes are saying, if it's cancellation of over 50% of the schedule of the season, give us a whole nother season. And that's hard too. So we already talked about the spring 2019 student athletes who are allowed to come back for next year, like men's volleyball. But that poses a challenge because you have to be able to pay for them. You have to be able to pay for those additional scholarships. And that is something that, at the Power 5 schools, less of a problem. At UH, a little bit more of an issue. Not as big of a budget. But at the same time, when our group of 5 schools, which UH is included in, is looking and waiting for, this table scraps of the Power 5 to please tell us when we can play or not, that's what sends everything into a tailspin. Is because we've been waiting for the SEC commissioner, the Big 12 commissioner, and the Big 10 commissioner, for all of them to figure it out, what they want to do. So this is why we are in the place that we're at. Preserve scholarships and roster spots, yeah. So that's basically saying they want to be able to come back, so none of those demands are at all unreasonable. And also player assurance, ban and void all COVID-19 liability waivers. Yes, even at my union, even at Screen Actors Guild, we're not signing waivers. We're signing away our lives, like Herman King, literally. Ensure coverage of all out-of-pocket medical expenses related to COVID-19 incurred by athletes for 5 years after exhaustion of eligibility. This should be standard, to my opinion. There are people that are going to be suffering from injuries that they suffered in college, people that you'll never heard of, people that nobody will ever remember, but they'll be suffering from colleges, probably from college too, but from the injuries that they sustained as a college athlete for the rest of their lives. It's a reality check when you leave college and you don't have a training room to go to. I broke in just as many bones after college than I did more bones after college. Okay, I need to start breaking bones, but it's different. Like, you can tape them up and you can send them back on the field, but once the season's over, once that final whistle is done, you don't get to just go back in the training room. You don't just go back to the team doctor. You got to deal with the reality that you are on your own now, and you better figure out what to do with your rotator cuff that still bothers you. Oh, a lot of things still bother me from college, and that's not. I didn't even play on a Division One football team. I could only imagine. Just this the wear and tear, and not everybody's gonna go to the pros. We already said that, it's very very slim percentage from Division One are gonna make the pros. So it's real, and adults will know that. They'll agree it's real. When you go into the real world, you don't just get to have an insurance given to you. Unfortunately, yeah, it's a whole different other program, but yeah, that should be a thing anyways. We shouldn't be talking about medical expenses. I wish we weren't talking about. That's a totally another subject, but these athletes are asking for something that is real. That I guarantee everyone who's played Division One for sure would be like, yep, because it's not easy, and you're still dealing with lingering injuries that you sustained to help a school make money, but not you make money, the school make money, and that's why players are opting out of bowl games. I mean, if they get hurt in that bowl game, they know that already. They're like, oh, okay, I'm going pros. I'm not playing this bowl game. Of course, anything can happen like that. Anything can happen, right? Anything can happen on any given day. So athletes are becoming more aware, and they're going to be more outspoken. So I think that's one of the better parts of this entire pandemic is that we have athletes who are speaking out for themselves. And when we talked about like the Ed O'Bannon case, the trademark case, if anybody remembers that, Ed O'Bannon, the former UCLA basketball player, suing EA Sports for the use of his likeness and amateurism and or NCAA and. You go look up that case, and we'll go into the details. But a lot of that sparked a new kind of ideal that, oh my gosh, these kids should likely get paid because they're making the school literally millions upon millions, fistfuls of millions of dollars, and sustaining injuries afterwards. So I haven't seen any of them asking for money yet, and the Mountain West they're not going to ask for money. It's just not something that the Mountain West these kids know they're not. But it's not like their friends that are playing at Power 5 schools who are making a lot of money for the schools, who may never have a job like that where they get to play football and are certainly basically doing it as a professional, should be getting paid for it, and that's just a trend. So I'm not saying that started it. This isn't definitely not starting it, but now we're starting to see the fruits of those trends. And whistleblower protection for athletes and staff who report suspected violations to COVID-19 safety protocols. And I think a lot of that does go back to the Colorado State situation. Colorado State, I've had my own personal issues with Colorado State. Some of you already know that. But I think that school has issues. That school has problems. You go to anybody, if you're Colorado State, I mean, you should be nodding your head as well, because just go Google Colorado State and all the issues they have. And I'm not shocked by any of them. Of course, there are going to be players on both sides saying, I've never seen it. Everything is simple. Everybody has a different experience with your coach. If you're a member of a team, I mean, not everybody's like, there's some coaches that'll be beloved forever, but there'll be players that hate them. Not to say that you should, or people do that, but I'm saying not everybody's going to have the greatest relationship with their coach. So, it's not a surprise if people are saying don't say anything, don't play, because everyone knows that their or players, they need to play so that also people can get paid. Staff can get paid, people can get paid. I mean, I don't know what the school's going to end up doing. I mean, I would imagine they're still going to keep the salaries of all of the, unless they furlough them or something. I don't know. But the school also, that all goes into the general pot of how you run an entire Division I program, which takes a lot of money. It's not easy to do that. It's not easy to be able to run something that is multi-million-dollar expenses, as well as money coming from TV. How do you balance that? And at the Power 5, it is obscene. It's obscene how much money they're making. So I have no problem calling that out. I mean, I'm sure even they realize like the money is crazy. And yes, you can justify it as like this science building was built, and that's wonderful. I mean, I would love that all of the money was integrated back into academics, but it's clear that it's going to coaches' salaries. It's going to places that are it's questionable whether, and it is. It's just, I'm not saying everybody deserves to make millions of dollars. I think people work really, really hard and deserve to be able to make as much money as they want. But when it's done clearly on the backs of those who are exploited in some way, which college athletes, especially at Power schools, are, Especially if they don't make the NFL. Hey, you're playing out there. You draw up a nice resume for life in the NFL, and then you make it. Yeah, there you go. But we're seeing the NBA, the G League, how when the NBA changed the amateurism rule, and they thought colleges were like, okay, good, we'll get all these one and dones, right? Calipari at Kentucky was like, okay, I'm gonna get all these one and dones, and then we're gonna win championships, and that's how a lot of schools are doing it. But now a lot of these kids are saying like, why would I go to college? Like, I don't want to go to class. I just want to play basketball. I'm going to the NBA. Everybody knows. So they're going to the G League, or they're going to Australia or something, or Greece. But the NCAA is lucky because that's where the kids that don't go to NFL, that's your breeding ground, right? So they don't have to worry about like a G League in the NBA. The NFL doesn't have to worry about like a G League interfering with their product, or colleges, college basketball does. But at the same time, college basketball was never getting those. Like if you were like a super stud NBA player and like you're destined for the NBA and you're a sure lottery pick, you weren't going to go to college. I mean, right? You're Kevin Garnett or Kobe or LeBron, or Tyson Chandler. Who else? Anybody else who went a hardship? Moses Malone, right? Was the first. So, it's been done for a long time, but it's like there is money at stake as well, right? It's like if Duke can keep getting some of these guys, get Zion. Now they got the 1 year guy at least. It brings a lot to the program. It brings notoriety. I mean, everybody knows about the Duke North Carolina rivalry in the country, I would imagine. It's sports fans. And there's a financial, windfall from that as well. So it's not like it's just like happenstance that everything is great there and they're on TV all the time and people love them. It's like, and ESPN's always covering them. It's like, no, there's a mechanism behind it and people are getting paid. But it's also, to me, important that the student athletes are aware of that, and now they're becoming more aware of that. They're becoming more aware of where they fit into this, what kind of cog they are in this machine, which is, and people are going to say, well, I work a job. Like, okay, yeah, you are. You're a cog in your machine of a giant company, and you can be compensated for it. You're compensated for it. If you're compensated fairly for it, then you feel fairly compensated for it. But if you're a student athlete, you never really thought about that. And once again, and Mountain West players are not asking for money here. They're simply asking for assurances. And I think the out-of-pocket medical expenses is good. They should keep them on their plan. Whatever the university plan is, just keep them on for 5 years. Or, get on the board of, I don't know, changing the state of healthcare in America. You could do that as well. I don't know. So there are options, but I think these are pretty straightforward, and I think most people have been. I haven't seen too much hate against it. I guess I've definitely seen a lot of hate against the Pac-12 one. The Pac-12 one was lengthy, but the Pac-12 kids also, it's different. I'm not going to say they're smarter, because they're not necessarily. There are probably smarter kids, or there might be smarter kids at smarter kids at Division 3 and Division 2. So, but those kids have different stakes that they're playing with at the Pac-12. That's why I'm saying it's not that they're more aware, because the kids, I'm sure, are aware at the Mountain West, but they themselves know that it's difficult to start a movement when, you're playing with different circumstances, like at UH, where it's hard to ask for money, which they're not asking, but you want to be assured that the players, that their own personal safety is being considered when they're going forward, not just how much money they're going to lose. I mean, that figure is being thrown around so much. Like, yes, the saddest part is the fans. Sorry, I'm gonna reserve that, and all of you watching, we'll reserve the right to be the saddest, because we don't have any money at stake in this. And actually, I do have with Hawaii Sports Fans, which it is what it is. I mean, I'll have more tours, and we'll go on tours. But it's more sad that I can't go. That's the whole reason Hawaii Sports Fans exists, is to make a way for people to be able to go and to these games and do it in the most fun way that I can conceive possible of going somewhere. And I've done it successfully multiple times, and it's been amazing. But that requires college football to happen. It requires people to want to go travel. It requires the ability to go into a game. So most of those factors, who knows when those will happen again. And that's just the reality of the pandemic. and that's what we're all working with. But football is just another thing that, because it's so important, and it is really important too. Whether people hate football or love football or whatever, if you're somewhere in between, you don't have to be obsessed with football, like in love with football. Like one of those people, like a fourth grader would be like, "Do you want to marry football?" You'd be like, "I would if I could." Like you don't have to be like that level, but you have to realize just the cultural significance of it and just how important it is. So that's why there are a lot of feelings on all sides. It's not just people who are making money off of it. But a lot of people that are not making anything of it, but they can't imagine what their September, October, November, December will look like. And that's a reality. That's a reality check. But there's a lot of good that can come out of that as well. And I'm hoping for the sustainability of the program that there will be. Sean, so mahalo, Sean Iman. He did go out there. He said UH is a ghost town. Trust me, he did go out there to UH and did try to get to practice for a practice whose time was never released. So Sean definitely, just went all in, 9 o'clock. But nobody was around. Ghost town, he says. Trust him, he says. And he also says travel subs are trash. And yeah, the travel subsidies. So maybe we'll save those travel subsidy money at least. We don't have to pay that this year. But we shouldn't have those anyways. So I think it's about time that we are back on a level field. John also says get better John Ursua. Yeah, John Ursua also apparently was put on the COVID-19 list. So let me go and find that. And that is a little bit scary. So we're hoping, that nothing. I know that his dad logged on. So hi, Uncle. Just wishing the best for John and hoping that it all works out for him. Oop. So I'm bringing in things live right now. The magic of live editing on the go. So John Ursua added to the reserve COVID list. He's the first Seahawks player added to that reserve list. So it means that he either tested positive or has been in close contact with someone who has. So he's out indefinitely until he has multiple consecutive negative tests. So who knows what multiple means? I don't know how many he has to get. There are issues with tests as well. So it's like what kind of test? But the NFL hopefully we'll know a little bit more. It looks like the NFL, the NFL seems to be pretty positive about going forward. And today I watched the Rams training camp video. It was like a tailgate. Oh yeah, it was called a tailgate. So for the Rams, so they had like Jared Goff and like Cooper Kupp, and they had like the offensive line, and Aaron Donald wasn't there, but he was feeling sick. So hopefully he doesn't have corona. But it's cool to see like the players, and they're excited. They still are, they said they're doing their meetings outdoors. So that's kind of interesting. So I think everybody is, and the NFL, wow. I mean, that'd be a huge one too if we end up losing the NFL. That'll be difficult, but hopefully that can keep going. I think they got to figure out a way to keep it contained though. They got to do something because, and I think in the NFL, excuse me. I mean, it's like if you're flying somewhere, you obviously never, the bus is always gonna, pick you up, right? I mean, there's so many different factors still, but I guess like you can minimize your contact with other humans, basically. When you have that much money, the NFL could do that, right? Fly and land on the tarmac, take a bus to that hotel, never leave the hotel. So if you consistently test, it should work out. And maybe that's why the Marlins don't know how it happened, but that's how easy it can happen. Because even the Marlins in baseball are saying, like, I think it's like there's so few instances that they can recall, but at the end of the day, not everybody's probably excuse me, not everyone is probably 100% truthful of where they go either. They're not being watched all the time. They don't want snitches, so it's difficult though. So the NFL, John's the first one for the Seahawks, and we just wish him the best. Because we love the Ursuas, all of them, Auntie Lori, all of you guys, Uncle Larry. So follow Uncle Larry to Ursua if you get a chance. He's a fun follow. He's an amazing coach. And in Hawaii, that's even more a part of that cultural part of football, is that association that we have with families, and how we incorporate that into our lives. Doing what we do in the fall, watch games and hang out with your family. So I think that's a part of the loss that people are feeling. And that's a really sad part. Brad says, did you sign up for virtual fan for Clippers? I did, actually. I didn't get called, though. I didn't get chosen. And you know what I was seeing on the virtual fan? They were showing like multiple the same people. Like they were like superimposing them into different seats because they probably had. And I mean, I'm seeing this more towards the end of the games, but still, if you're gonna like commit to being a virtual fan, you should commit for the whole game, the entire game, right? Brad said MLS Championship Tuesday. I know, but I'm glad that Orlando at least did make it to championship because they beat LAFC. But I'm being hoo-hoo about MLS right now because LAFC got knocked out and they shouldn't have. The NBA has been amazing to watch. Whether you're a virtual fan and get to be there. If you're a virtual fan, let me know. I would love to find out. Or if anybody has, because the Clippers I signed up for. But I would sign up for any team, quite frankly. I would sign up for every team. I mean, even the teams that I could find a way to cheer for every team if I needed to. 4 links. Okay, Brad said 4 links. So maybe you should post some of that. Like, do you see it, like other teams? Because that would be fun. Everybody's got to be wondering, like, how do you become a virtual fan? So, I know. I should know that, right? Well, I do know that. I did do the link, but I don't know if there's a special way because I haven't been called yet. So, if you have been called, let me know because that would be pretty cool to be a virtual fan. But no, today's entire show and basically the entire season of this show and everything we've been talking about has been kind of dealing with COVID literally since the beginning. I can't wait till we don't have to talk about it. I just so can't wait till we don't have to talk about COVID. But I'm sure it's like that meme, right? We're all over COVID, but COVID's not over yet. Sean says we are invested in this Ohana because this Ohana invested so much here. Yeah, for sure. So people here are invested emotionally. People in Hawaii we are such great fans in that we acquiesce to a lot of the demands made by the forces around us, given that we're on Hawaii. And it's just, white people can be docile people, but at the same time, they are so passionate. Like having Liz Kauai, when we talked about Kauai and Kauai, and how the fans there would go to every game. If they had games, they would sell out the stadium. A lot of that is true of all people from Hawaii because, my dad was telling me a story today about his dad taking him to the old Honolulu Stadium to watch, he was Blangiardi play or something. So, yes, and congrats to Rick Blangiardi and Keith Amemiya, 2 sports figures. 2 sports figures are going to be head-to-head for mayor, so that's pretty cool, I think. That's the linkage, right? UH football is that kind of linkage, and football in general is that linkage to people's families and to people's past, and the emotional investment that they made into each other, and that's at the end of the day something that we're always going to remember. Probably remember me crying about the end of football season, but I really should stop considering things when I'm talking to everyone here because I don't fully, especially when it came to the season, it's hard to just imagine it. I doomsday scenarioed in my brain before. I hope I didn't jinx it where I was like, man, one year, what if they don't have football or something? What would I do? Now I can figure it out. I can't go to games. So I think this show and all your support and our Ohana, like Sean is talking about, just that support is still alive and still well and still evident on Twitter, in real life, in the stores, people wearing gear, people celebrating H Day Friday. So there's a lot of positivity that's coming out of this. So, that's really all I had. I think we're just about the 6 o'clock hour. Bradley, thank you for those updates. Sean, everybody that left an update, everyone that joined in. Thank you, Jenny, again. Brad says, I watch a lot of athletes and sports entertainers play esports on YouTube, Twitch. I think it's time for esports to get their shine. I get it. I agree. HBU ahead of the game where they have an esports facility at Aloha Tower. Yep. Yep. Esports is I personally don't play video games actually. I'm not a video game player, but I understand its cultural significance as well. I grew up playing video games, so it's not like it should be minimized. And definitely esports, the attraction, like as many people have at watch, like whatever Fortnite tournaments and stuff. It's impressive, and HBU has been one of those that schools has taken the lead. So shout out to them as well. Thanks, Timmy. All right, guys. Well, we'll have time to ponder football season again. We'll talk about it Wednesday. Take care. Aloha.